Hello people, welcome to Capacity Boost for NCVP's operations. We're going to talk about data management, especially entity-to-entity partnerships and how to do all the analysis to check that we are working together with our IR partners. So the objectives for this phase is to understand how to measure IR performance, learn how to gather the data, and of course learn how to read and analyze the data. So the first thing that we have to help you is the S&D dashboard, the supply and demand dashboard. So what you can find here is like all the specifics for each product. So you can find, for example, for GE and GT, what are the subproducts per entity, the duration, if they have special requirements or not. For GV, also like the SDG focuses they have. So there is the link here. You can just click on it and go to see it, but we're also going to explain a little bit more in this space. And of course, we have the data files. So these are data files that the MCPs receive every month. So every month this link is going to change, but they can share it with you. Also, regional office can share it with you. And at any point in the month that you need a specific data file, you can request it. So you don't need to wait exactly for these monthly data files. And one of the main benefits that these data files have is like it contains data for LCs. And like none of the regional dashboards are really showing data for LCs. So if you really want to analyze your own entity, you should use the data files. So now, if we talk about entity-to-entity partnerships, what should we take into consideration? Of course, like of all of the KPIs, but in this space, we're going to focus on applicants, accepted approvals, realizations, and complete. So, as I told you, I'm going to show you a little bit about what is in the dashboard. So we can see this video. The link is already in the presentation, so you can access to that. The dashboard is constantly updated, so that's fine. So let's start with the overview for GV in this case. So you can find, for example, timeline, focus, SG, duration. For G, the same thing. Timeline. Also, there's for more entities in the other regions, and for GT as well, you have approvals, goals, LCs running the product. You also have the backgrounds for OGT. Yeah, there's like a lot of information. For IGT, also the portfolio they are managing. And then we have the rankings. So rankings per every KPI. This is European entities and their partners in other regions, but now we also have rankings for every region, so you can take a look. It's constantly updated and improved, so it's constantly changing. Now we have the tables. This is showing approvals, applicants, realizations, and complete. So you can have all the GV and IGV and OGV entities in this case. And it's showing you whatever you selected in the KPI. So for example, IGV Austria has one applicant with Albania. And the graphics as well. So again, the KPIs, but now we can see like per each entity. So we can select the product, in this case still GV, but we have also this for GE and GT. And you can see exactly for this entity, for this product, so IGV Czech Republic, what is happening in terms of IR partners and supply and demand. Yeah. So yeah, the same for GE, graphics also for GE, and same for GT. Amazing. The only thing that is not here is data for accepted. This is very important. But we have the data files that we can work with them to gather this data. So we're going to start with applications file. Then this is important that we need to understand these applications, not applicants. So yeah, we're going to see how it goes. So the first thing that we need to do is like, yeah, we have this data file like this. So we need to separate the values into columns because right now everything is in one column and it's very difficult, almost impossible to read. So we need to go to data and then text to columns, and then we just need to wait a little bit. Yeah, we are still waiting. Okay, almost there. So we are going to have like every column in a different column. And after that, we're going to apply filters for everything. So we select the whole sheet and then we go and apply filters. And we're going to filter date of applied. Why do we start with period of time? I'm going to explain a little bit. So we go and select the period of time we want to watch. Maybe we can see the whole term, maybe we can see this month, last month, we just select it. And then we copied all of that and we paste it in another sheet. Why do we do this? Because we need to make sure the data that we filter is going to stay. So even though let's say we apply the filter and then directly we create the pivot table, then the filter is not going to really stay. It's not going to be applied. So that's why we need to filter first, especially the data, the dates, sorry, the periods of time, because those are like the most difficult to handle in the pivot table. So we filter date of time and then we copy and paste it in another one, so we know for sure we're going to have the data that we filtered. So these are the two reasons why we do this. And after this, so we just select everything again. We go to insert and pivot table. Yeah, amazing. So this is the pivot table. Basically, a pivot table is like a way of displaying the data, of showing the data that is going to allow us to understand better what is there. So we can cross-check different data and just like put data facing other data so we understand what is happening and we have like a better overview and we can read better the data we have. This is a pivot table. Now, let's say we want to we want to see applications. So this is what we do. We select home or host. So home is OGX, host is ICX, depending of what you want to see. And then we filter the status. Yeah, so we select, we can put home region, home LC, home LC. If you want to see LCs or only MCs, you can really decide up to this. And then in front of that, we can put like the opposite. So if we are working with home, you can put host and see what is happening between those two entities or LCs or regions. So we select the product. In status, we're going to select open because we would like to see in this case the applications that are not processed yet. So the people who applied but they didn't get an answer of accepted, rejected, withdrawn, nothing. So they are still pending to be processed. So in this case, we are seeing OGV Italy, and depending, let's say, applications, they still have to be processed. Yeah, and also very important, in the values, we are going to count the data of apply because this is what we filter and we know that we have this data in every cell in the column. And count because we are counting the applications they have, because we also have more options of sum and average and maximum, minimum, but in this case we just need to count exactly what is there. Now for accepted, it's basically the same process. So we create the pivot table, we select home or host depending on what you want to see. So home region, home LC, the product of course, and then in front of that the opposite, so host region, host MC, and then we just don't put any filters for status, and we are just going to count the date of accepted. This is what we want to see. So we select a random MC, product, yeah, so it's going to show less data of course, because I mean comparing applicant to accepted, I mean it's not that much. So this is, and of course remember, like this is for the period of time you selected before at the beginning, so take that into consideration when you're playing with this. Now we also have DAL file. this is like the main data file that you can find because it contains a lot of data, a lot of information here. So we're going to work with this one. Basically, we start at the same way. We divide text to columns, so we have our information, our data organized in different columns. And we still wait a little bit. Good. Then we select all the sheet, we apply filters for everything, and then we go to date approved because we want to see approvals first. We select again the period of time we want to watch, maybe LC term, maybe MC term, last month, this month, whatever you want to see. And then we copy this information and we paste it in another one. Yes. And then we can insert our pivot table. Good. Then we select home or host, whatever you want to see, whatever you are focusing on. We select the product, of course, in filters. And then we put in the opposite side, the opposite we are looking for. We count date approved again, yes. So now what we're going to see is the approval between entities. In this case, between MCs, and then we can divide, so let's say Germany, and then we divide what we are seeing per region and per entity. So right now it's showing Americas, and then the entities in Americas, and then AP entities in AP, and like that. Good. Now for realize, we are basically going to do the exact same, but just filtering date realize. Remember that we filter first date approved. Now we're going to filter the period of time for date realized, and then we do exactly the same process. So we copy and we paste the information. We create the pivot table. Now we're going to see host region, in this case host MC. You can also select host LCs, yes, the product, and in the opposite we put home. And then we count date realized because that's what we filter. Okay, so now we are seeing GB Ukraine, so IGV, and they realize they have which entities in which regions. We can also see it only by MCs, no regions. We can also see it only by LC, so we are seeing LC to LC here, and then entity and the LC of this entity. Anyway, you can really play with whatever you want to see in the pivot table. It's up to you. So now we have more options. So of course we need to do the same process for completed. Remember filtering the date complete and then put that in values count date complete. Again, you can play with the options to display data in the pivot table. And please don't forget to filter the dates before creating the pivot table. This is like the only thing you need to filter before creating the pivot table. Of course, you can also filter already product if you already just want to see one product, or like you can filter a lot of things, but for sure date, periods of times needs to be filtered before. Now, why are we doing all of this? Because it's very good to see the data, to get all the data, but we need to use the data for making decisions, right? So the first thing, I just wanted to give you like some tips or like steps to use data for decision-making processes. So the first thing is define the question. So make sure you understand what you want to find, like what are you looking for, and why do you need to analyze all of this data? Why do you need to download the data files, and why are you doing this? Then after that, define exactly what you need to measure. So for example, I need to measure this time frame because I want to see LC term, let's say, and values I just need to see approves of the LC term. Like what exactly are the measurement that you need to see. The third one is collect the data. So basically do the things that I just showed you. Go to the dashboards if they are available, go to the data files, apply the filters, all of these things. Don't be afraid of trying new things. I mean, the data is there. Then, like, you just need to read it. Then analyze the data. So this is why we are using the pivot table. For me, this is like the most easiest way of analyzing data. Of course, if you are very visual, you can also create graphics directly from the pivot table and these kind of things, but you can like play with that according to what you need. And the most important part is the last part, is interpreting the results. So the data that you found, let's say that you have the pivot table already with the data displayed. So you need to ask yourself if this data that you have is actually answering the initial question that you had. Also, if there is anything that you didn't consider, or maybe limitations. Of course, I will suggest here that keep in mind that this is only quantitative perspective. And then you also need to analyze the context, what happened. Maybe, I don't know, the LC had this situation and that's why they are underperforming, or like there's a lot of other aspects to consider. It's not only like data aspects. So make sure you're also putting this into the conversation, the limitations that you're going to have, so you can really answer your question. And lastly, like some tips or like reminders. Remember that we are using applications and DAL file for this analysis. Don't forget to filter the period of time before creating the pivot table. Play around with the data and the fields on the table. So it's really up to you how you want to make like the visualization for the data that you're reading. And make sure the values are counting. Again, it can be sum, it can be average, it can be a lot of other things, but right now we need counting. And for entity-to-entity partnerships, I mean, if you want to analyze how is the performance going, of course you need to plan. So you can have plan achievement at the end. So make sure that when you're planning your entity-to-entity partnerships, you're having planning for all the KPIs, not only like realization goal or approval goal, but you need to plan also like applicants, accepted, finished, complete, so you have a better understanding of what you're doing together. And that's it. I will invite you to take the quiz. So we have a quiz for you. It's only 5 questions, super easy. I will also leave the link below so you can take it and let me know if you have questions. Thank you.